What's good, YouTube? My name is Coach, and in today's video, we're going to be responding to this conversation between Joe Rogan and Dr. Phil. The topic is mental health, and if you enjoy videos like this, you can let me know by liking, subscribing, and commenting this video. I know there's going to be a lot. I've literally never seen this conversation before, so we're just going to listen to what these two have to say, and then we're going to respond in the end. Almost as if I was there speaking to Joe Rogan myself. Just keep in mind that this is a Magic the Gathering YouTube channel, and I do giveaways every single week. So the card that we're giving away this week is the Sanctum of All. This is one of the new Shrine Commanders. You give away a new commander every single week. So all you need to do is just subscribe, like, and comment on this video so I'm aware that you exist, so that on Sunday when I do the giveaway announcement, you have the opportunity to win a free card. Okay, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. We're just going to get this video started. All right.
I mean, I think I know that there's a stigma attached to mental illness, and that really bothers me. There should not be. I mean, having depression or anxiety or whatever, to me, should have no more stigma than having a knee injury or kidney infection or diabetes. But there is a stigma attached to it. And I've tried to talk about this in a way where it's okay to talk about it and not be ashamed of it. It's okay. If you've got anxiety, you got PTSD, whatever, it's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's get help for it, get it behind you, and move on. I mean, it's not something that you should be ashamed of.
What do you, when you're talking to someone that maybe has depression, do you try to get them to exercise first? Do you try to get them to visit a psychiatrist immediately and get on medication? Like, do you take it on a case-by-case basis?
Well, I do, but you have to approach it. Everybody has a philosophy about it, and I'm not saying that mine's any better than anybody else's, but I do have a philosophy about it, and I'm very slow to medication. I mean, I
Good
think
for you.
I think you use medication for biochemical replacement. I mean, if for some reason your body is not making enough of something it needs, then maybe you support it short term biochemically. But, you know, I look at depression, there's a lot of ways you can break it up, but I look at it like, is it exogenous depression or endogenous depression? I mean, is it coming from the inside out or the outside in? Is it because you're reacting to something? I see a lot of depressed people that, in a sense, it makes sense.
Right.
I mean, you look at their life and you say, well, if you're not down about this, you should be. I mean, you've lost your job, you've gotten a divorce, your health is in the shitter, you should be down about this. It's external things. So you don't need a pill. I mean, put somebody in a chemical straitjacket because their life's falling apart. What the hell's that going to do?
Yeah.
But that's just putting goggles on them where they can't see it. I would much rather get them to behave their way to success and say, what are you reacting to that you're depressed about? Let's put that on a to-do list and start, like you said, write it down and start crossing those things off. Let's figure what's an action plan to change this, action plan to change the next thing. And then when you start doing that, then you generally see their mood lift. A lot of people that are depressed are just realistically reacting to a crummy circumstance in their life. It's not necessarily a mental illness. It's just a realistic reaction to a bad spot in their life.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it, too, that if you weren't in a bad state looking at this, there might be something wrong with you.
Yeah, you're in denial.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've gotten a divorce, lost your job, your health's in bad shape, your kids are alienated from you, and you're saying, I'm fine, then you're not in touch with reality. I mean, you should be bothered by that. And I think to give somebody a pill to mask your feelings about that just keeps you off task. Pain's a good motivator. I grew up in like Texas and Oklahoma, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I used to spend my summers in the thriving metropolis of Mundy, Texas. You ever heard of Mundy, Texas?
No.
It's M-U-N it's a U, not an O, Munday. It's got like 2,000 people in it. But in the summers, it would get hot in Munday, Texas. Now, when I say hot, I mean you look out in the backyard and your dog burst into flames. That's what I'm talking about. So we would be going to the swimming pool or something barefooted, and you get halfway across an asphalt road, and you look down, and like, holy shit. I mean, your feet are just on fire. So what are you going to do? I mean, that is painful. You're going to do one of two things. You're either going to make a U-turn and get your ass back over to the side of the road and get in the grass, or you're going to run to the other side and get off the road and get in the grass. But you're not going to stand there in the middle of the road and melt yourself down to the knees. Pain is a motivator. Pain is not necessarily always bad. If you're in pain, it's going to motivate you to move, to change something. And to mask that with drugs, to dull that pain with drugs, is not necessarily a good thing.
That is wise advice. And I wish more people thought that way, particularly more doctors. You know, I have so many friends that have gone to a doctor because they're not feeling so good, and they're almost immediately wanting to throw them on something.
Yeah, that's not smart.
In all the years you've been doing this, have you noticed, like, was depression as prevalent, like the term depression, or was it doesn't, I mean, I don't really remember it being a thing when I was a kid that was discussed the way it's discussed now. Now it's discussed the way people discuss all sorts of other ailments. Is it just an awareness thing, or is it just people are thinking about it now in different terms?
Well, I think it's part of the narrative now, and I think with social media, with the internet, not just social media, but with the internet, I think there's just a lot more. It's a lot more in the nomenclature, and there's a lot more awareness about it. But I think it was just as prevalent in the 50s and 60s as it was now. But in the 50s and 60s, there wasn't a psychologist on every corner.
Right.
And there is now.
Yeah.
And there wasn't subdoctoral licensing then. I mean, you
what does that mean?
Well, back then, you had to have a PhD or an MD as a psychiatrist to see patients. Now they have marriage and family therapists, they have licensed social workers, they have different levels where you can do independent practice. So that's broadened the number of people that can provide services. And some people think that's a good thing, some people think it's not. I generally think it's a good thing, because I think 58% of our rural markets today have no psychiatrist available, and something like 50 or roughly have no mental health professional available at all, none. So there's just nobody available to help people in the outlying areas. So I think the more people you can get into the profession, so long as there's a degree of competency, is better. But I think it's always been prevalent. I just think people didn't talk about it very much.
So there was a lot that was spoken there in those 7 minutes. So what we're gonna do right now is just highlight a couple of things that I noticed and that I want to clarify on. And more importantly, Joe Rogan asked one question about when you see a client, that and they say they have depression, what do you do? And Dr. Phil gave his answer and talked about staying away from medications, but he brought up medications. So obviously that's something that he pursues in the moments that you need it. And I would imagine we have to think about medicine from a certain perspective. Medicine is there for emergency cases. If you're free from being in an emergency, then you can just change your lifestyle to then cure yourself. Otherwise, there are people that legitimately need help right now, and those people are the people that are the candidates to receive medication. So just keep that in mind. So understand that while we vilify medication and that it's this bad thing, understand that there's a purpose for it, and it's legitimately necessary in the moments where it's needed. Please understand that, and please respect the doctor's capacity to prescribe medicine to individuals that actually need it. So, however, when we're talking about, back to the beginning of the video, they were mentioning how, or Dr. Phil was mentioning how depression, people, there's this stigma around depression. And people often, when we talk about mental health, we talk about depression. So we're saying mental health, which is your brain's ability to perceive reality, and then we talk about an emotion. And that's like saying your brain and your heart. These are two completely different organs. So why am I going to associate an emotion with my mentality, with my thinking? These are two different realms. So people perceive themselves to be their mentality, which their mentality, you are not a person cannot be an emotion. People, your mentality experiences emotions. So these are two different things. So if people perceive themselves to be depressed or to be a depression, then yeah, there's going to be a stigma, because people perceive that to be a negative emotion, right? So you have to separate this. Depression, be free from believing that depression is a mental health problem. It is actually an emotional health problem. These are two different things, two different realms, right? When I work with some clients, some people, they lack the ability to be able to perceive themselves. You know, I tell them to touch their nose with their finger and they do this. Some people, some kids, that's a mental health problem. Like, your brain is not able to connect to be aware of your surroundings. That's a mental health issue. This depression is an experience. Just like how you can be happy, you are never going to be happy. Okay? So make the distinction between the two, and suddenly this stigma goes away, because you're just experiencing something. You are not that. Okay? So back into the video, Joe Rogan also mentioned or asked Dr. Phil, he said, you know, when you meet someone who says they have depression, you know, what do? You know, what's going on? And in those instances, you know, Dr. Phil gave his answer, and I'm going to give you my answer. And for people that are in the state right now where they're experiencing depression, listen to this, because the only reason I can tell you what I'm going to tell you right now is because people have told me this works for them. So I can't say that this is going to work for you right now 100%. However, I can say that generally for most people, this does. So when we talk about depression, we have to understand depression first in order to be able to work on it. So depression is basically, first of all, depression is a really healthy thing. Okay, that means that your body is healthy enough to send signals to your brain to tell you something's going on, right? Dr. Phil mentioned pain is a motivator, right? So your body's basically saying, how much pain do I have to put you through until you do something? Depression, have you ever experienced procrastination? Procrastination is basically you just not doing something for something that you need to do something for. And because you don't do something, that something that you're not doing is causing you to unfortunately feel poor emotionally. So as long as you do something about what's causing you to feel poor, suddenly you feel good, right? How much relief did you have after you were experiencing a bout of procrastination? You do what you needed to do, what you're procrastinating for, and suddenly the emotion relieves itself, and now you're experiencing a different emotion, right? So as long as you're able to make the distinction and just understand your depression is just procrastination, and like, mind you, it's a heavy form of procrastination. I mean, this is deep and this is dark. We're talking about issues that in some cases are sometimes unspeakable, which is why people rarely do anything about them. We're talking about heavy traumatic experiences that people are fearful to do something about because of how traumatic it was. So have that patience for yourself. Maybe if you're in that situation, maybe it's not time for you to do something yet. You know, maybe someone trespassed against you and you are not ready to open up. But just have in the back of your mind that someday maybe you will be ready to have a conversation, ready to forgive someone, ready to forgive yourself, ready to apologize, ready to ask for an apology, just ready to write something down, ready to just act in any way that's going to allow you to relieve that feeling of procrastination. You know, a person can ask himself inside their brain, like, what can I do to make sure that I can be free from this? And as long as you do that for yourself, only you can cure your own depression. I can tell you, I can give you a basic framework for what you can do, which is what I'm doing right now. However, you will decide what will help you, because it'll just pop up in your brain like that. And just take baby steps, right? It doesn't have to be this grand gesture, this grand action. Sometimes it is, and I've seen it in some people. However, just writing something down, you know, just talking, speaking it out loud, just doing anything you can to just build your confidence up to the point where you can take a grand action. That's what's going to cause you to relieve your traumatic experience so that you can be free from that depression. So just keep that in mind and be comfortable. If you're a person that's experiencing depression, that means you're 100% healthy, okay? And mentally, you're 100% normal. To wrap everything up, if you're depressed, that means you're healthy. It's an emotional health issue. Be free from believing that it's a mental health issue, okay? You're mentally totally fine, because if you're depressed and you say that you're depressed, that means you're aware that you're experiencing a negative emotion. It's extremely similar to saying, I'm feeling happy, I'm aware that I'm happy. That's it. That's really all it is. And depression is just procrastination, a heavy form of procrastination, mind you. As long as you take the actions to resolve that idea of procrastination, whatever you develop inside your own mind, take small steps, you'll bring yourself to a resolution of depression. It's really, you know, one conversation can change your life. Just one moment can change. And I'm telling you, I've seen people, in my experience, I can't say this is going to be true for everybody, and I apologize to the people that take offense to me thinking or making this seem like it's so easy. But I've literally seen people in 30 minutes get over highly traumatic situations where they've been labeled as bipolar or depressed, as this and that, on 6 or 7 different medications, and then they speak and then they act, and then a couple days later it's completely gone, and it's like it's never happened before. Okay? But it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them, and them taking the actions, and them just thinking about it from a certain perspective so that they can then act on their deep procrastination or depression. Okay? So if you enjoyed this video, you can like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Whatever you think, whatever your comments may be, you can leave those comments in the comment section below, and I will respond to them when I get the chance, because I respond to every single comment. So I hope you have an amazing day, okay? And if there's a video out there that you want me to respond to, just send me the link. My email is coachgonzalezprofessional@gmail.com, and I'll respond to you and make that video whenever I get the chance, okay? Just remember to eat healthy, okay? Work out every single day, and most importantly, you got to believe in yourself, all right? Peace out, people.